everybody? Welcome to Capital of Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch, and today we're going to talk some MMA. More specifically, UFC 208, which is going down this Saturday in Brooklyn, New York, which is headlined by the inaugural featherweight title fight between Holm, the former bantamweight champion of the world, and Duran. And this fight is going to be contested at 145 pounds, which is the mixed martial arts featherweight limit. Also on this card, in the co-main event, you have Silva taking on Brunson. And also in another feature bout of the evening, we have Jacare versus Tim the Barbarian Boetsch. Those are the three fights I'm going to talk about. There are also a few more fights on that card, but I'm going to get right into Tim Boetsch versus Jacare Souza. Now in this fight, you have one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in the sport of mixed martial arts in Jacare, fighting a very accomplished wrestler in Tim Boetsch, who is a very powerful striker as well. Now, he's not the most polished striker, as in if you were to watch like Silva or some of the other more accomplished guys, Cody Garbrandt, George St. Pierre, guys like that. Even Jacare Souza, who has been working on his striking over the years, because early on in his career, he was primarily a jiu-jitsu practitioner that was competing in the sport of MMA. But now he has worked on his stand-up striking to the point that he has become a very dangerous competitor in the middleweight division. So this fight is more of a stay busy fight for Jacare, whereas he's waiting on a title shot from the champ Michael Bisping, and he was slightly derailed from his split decision loss to Yoel Romero. So he's waiting in line, anticipating the title shot, and he wanted to stay busy. He was supposed to fight Luke Rockhold back in November. That fight fell apart due to an injury. And so now he's got Tim Boetsch. Now, the reason this fight is interesting, one, is because Tim Boetsch is known for knocking out his opponents, especially when he's behind in the fight. And also, one of the things that I've noticed is that the Achilles heel of jiu-jitsu in mixed martial arts has been wrestling. Unfortunately, in this case, I don't think it's going to be a problem for Jacare. I think he has a tight enough defense to block the wild haymakers that Boetsch throws, and his jiu-jitsu is high level enough that he will be able to negate the wrestling of Tim Boetsch and be able to get a stoppage victory of some sorts, probably throughout the midway point of the fight, halfway through the second round. On to the second fight, the co-main event. We have Anderson the Spider Silva, former middleweight champion of the world, one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world, and a lot of people consider the best mixed martial artist to ever compete in the young sport. In his opponent, he has Derek Brunson, who is honestly tailor-made for Anderson Silva to shine. He is primarily a wrestler. His strikes are, while not as crisp as Silva, for comparison's sake, they are more crisp than Tim Boetsch. However, I don't believe it'll be enough for one of the most accurate fighters in the sport, and one who has impeccable timing, and that's Anderson Silva. His timing is top notch. He is highly accurate with his strikes, and he has shown that he can knock you out with his hands, his feet, his knees. He can stop you on the ground. He's way too well-rounded and proficient in several forms of martial arts to have someone like Derek Brunson give him problems. And if Brunson is able to give him problems, it'll be from him being able to work his punches in, close the distance, and get takedowns, which is one of the only real problems that Anderson Silva has is once he gets taken down, working out of those takedowns and getting back to the feet. Like I said, from Jacare and Tim Boetsch, I don't think that's going to be a problem for him. He should be able to look like the Anderson Silva that we all remember in this fight. Especially if Brunson fights the way he fought in his last fight versus Robert Whittaker. This fight gets ugly really quick. I think he'll be a little bit more patient, but it's only going to prolong the inevitable. This time I'm taking Silva by knockout, probably on a counter punch, catching Brunson coming in and finishing him off on the ground. Move on to the main event. This one is a very interesting fight. We have two highly accomplished kickboxers, Jermaine Durandamy in the Muay Thai arena. Holly Holm had a handful of kickboxing matches, but her bread and butter was the sweet science of boxing. And she was a multiple-time world champ in several divisions and probably the most accomplished female boxer to compete in women's mixed martial arts. She is also the former 135-pound bantamweight champ, famously dethroning Ronda Rousey year before last. So in this one, we have two highly accomplished strikers going at it. And the way they accomplished getting their victories with their striking is very different. Holly Holm is a very precise, crisp counterpuncher, whereas Durandamy is coming forward, winging heavy shots to get into that Muay Thai clinch and begin to annihilate you with knees and elbows. Now, Holly has done that, but not to the effect of Durandamy. Her knees are vicious. If you see, I'm going to take a page from my brother Rob and pull up my notes here. Anna Elmos is the highlight reel knee knockout that I was thinking of with Jermaine Durandamy. And ironically, as accomplished as a boxer Holly is, 6 of her 7 stoppage victories have come via kicks. That shows that she is very well versed and acclimated to the MMA game, and she also has a submission victory, something that Durandamy does not. She is a complete stand-up fighter. All of her losses have come on the ground or due to someone able to take her down and her not being able to, defend herself properly and get back to the feet, or as in the case of her very first fight versus Vanessa Porto, she submitted to an armbar. Against Amanda Nunes, she was trapped on the ground, immediately transitioned into the mount, and Nunes rained elbows on her until the referee stopped the fight. Her other loss against Julia Budd, which was in Strikeforce, Budd was able to take her down. Durandamy couldn't do anything about it, and she was able to cruise to a decision victory. I mentioned that because if this fight goes to the ground, it's going to be Holly doing so. And she has shown proficiency there where Durandamy has not. So, with someone who's a little bit more crisp with their striking, someone who is able to mix it up in mixed martial arts and take it to the ground if need be, I believe that Holly Holm can take this fight, and she has several options to end this fight. She can do it on the ground because Durandamy, unfortunately, is completely inept there. She's shown that so far. She may be working on it, but I don't think she'll have enough to catch up with Holly at this point. She is very aggressive, which plays into Holly Holm's counter-striking game. And that way, I believe Holly can pick her apart, and if she gets hit with something that hurts her, she can take it to the ground and exploit that weakness of Duran and come out with the victory. Of course, they got to go into the octagon and actually make that happen. So that's why you still watch the fights. So that's where I'm going with that one. I'm taking Holly Holm to become the first female 2-division champ in the UFC. And we'll see if the whole Chris Cyborg thing straightens out and if that becomes her first defense. If not, then there'll probably be a lot of ladies who have trouble making 135 happy that this 145 division is there and coming up to challenge her for that title. That's it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe. You can hit us up on any of our social networks. The links are down below. If you have any insight or you want to throw your opinion out there, leave something down in the comment section below. We'll be back for the recap later on after the fight. And until then, we'll see you in the next video. Fight on.
This is round 1 and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire, I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage, keep thinking that it's a game. I kick rhyme, hurricane, I told them I don't play, I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.